Ferrari has found a really good and strong base to work with for the 2024 racing season. In a place called Maranello, the car engineers are sure that they can have exciting fights with Red Bull all through this year's races. New upgrades coming to a place called EMA are going to make the car much better. The SF-24 race car is one of the best cars on the track because it doesn't have any big problems with how it's built. With the latest news from Frederick Vasseur, we might see some really cool battles once we get to IMA. With this in mind, can Ferrari change how their car works? And more importantly, will it be good enough to challenge Verstappen, who's winning at the front? When we talk about making things better, everyone notices Ferrari's huge improvements over the winter. The Italian team finally seems to understand what they need to do to go in the right direction. But Red Bull is still way ahead of them. While Sainz was very close to Perez in Bahrain, fans seem to forget that the #1 driver they need to beat is Verstappen, and he's still winning races by really big amounts. So Ferrari needs to make a massive jump in 2024, but it's not impossible. What's really important is that the team is bringing lots of upgrades to IMA. They believe these upgrades will work amazingly well on their car based on what they learned from the first 2 races. When it comes to having a solid base to work with, in the past 2 years the car was unpredictable and performed badly. This was because the car was limited by its own engineering, the chassis, the cockpit, and the gearbox. Now that all of these that have been changed, and with all the new airflow parts, the SF-24 car will be a perfect base to put lots of new upgrades on. These upgrades will push the car in the right direction without being ruined by the car's own design. But even before IMA, Ferrari will try to make improvements and get closer to Red Bull. The first real test will come in Suzuka when the team plans small but important upgrades to the car. Right now in Maranello, the current version of the SF-24 is called the 1.0 version. The 2.0 version will come in Imola. The fact that 3 drivers who have driven it in full race distances, Leclerc, Sainz, and a test driver, all gave good feedback and said it's much easier compared to 2023, shows that the engineers back in Maranello will have a much easier job making upgrades in the right direction. One of the main things Ferrari will try to fix with the new upgrades is warming up the tires. It took them 2 laps in Jeddah to get the tires to the best temperature. This shows that the car didn't have enough downforce to put enough energy on the tires. This might be because of the flatter rear wing main part that's been pointed out as something important to upgrade from IMA onwards. After finding out the car's floor doesn't make enough downforce, Ferrari is hoping that this solid base they have to work on will be perfect for understanding the new sidepod design and the floor philosophy. This could start earlier in Suzuka because that track needs medium downforce, and be made even better for EMA. While the RB20 took a new approach, it still gives hints to other teams about what could be improved on their cars. In this case, it's the rear end of the car. The SF-24 will follow a trend currently seen on the RB20 with a tapered shape, but it won't be exactly the same copy. Overall, Ferrari should be looking at massive airflow improvements in both performance and balance. They want to find the sweet spot of the car and prove they have what it takes to battle Verstappen up at the front. Many experts were doubtful that Ferrari made the right choice with their normal design of the SF-24 before the season started. They called the car a poor evolution of the 2023 version. But the Maranello team has proved them wrong, even though they haven't won a race yet and haven't closed the gap to Red Bull in terms of race speed. But they are definitely the second fastest team right now. It seems like apart from the Austrian team, Ferrari doesn't have any structural problems or basic issues they have to fix on the car, like Mercedes does with high-speed corner problems, or McLaren with DRS efficiency. When talking about the upcoming stuff for the SF-24, Vasseur was quite hopeful about the team's expectations. He said, "We already have some new parts. In fact, there's already an Evo version of the SF-24 in the wind tunnel that's more advanced than the current 1.0 version." Many people have asked how Ferrari managed to build such a strong base to work on. It comes down to the team being able to make the car work better under higher load conditions. But with the new side pods and the new floor coming to IMA, the step-by-step improvements Ferrari will make are very likely to bring them much closer to Red Bull. According to Vasseur, the team already have the gap to the Austrian team, and it's up to the upgrades to see where they will put them on the grid. Of course, we can't forget that Red Bull will also bring upgrades of their own. But considering they're chasing a design that's been called a failure from Mercedes and has raised some worries in the Austrian camp as well, there's a small chance they might get things wrong. So we may be close to seeing tight competition for race wins in 2024 once EMA comes. Another very important thing about Ferrari is the nature of their upgrades, or more precisely, the development path they will follow. It's obvious that every team on the grid took inspiration from the RB19, even though Red Bull went in a completely different direction with the RB20 according to Formula Uno. The first part of the season confirmed to the Ferrari engineers that there were no critical issues in the cooling management of the car. This comes as great news for Ferrari because they took more aggressive solutions in terms of the airbox design, so the team can use the wind tunnel to try and push for more performance without having to face last year's cooling issues. Thanks to changes in the volumes and shapes of the cooling system, packaging and power unit accessories, The team has been able to get a different distribution of airflow load. This creates a strong and stable airflow center of pressure and balance. The suspension of the car will also play a huge role in making the platform stable for the upcoming upgrades. With its unchanged philosophy of pushrod at the front and pull rod at the rear, the geometry and movement have undergone some changes and have been brought to perfection with some fine-tuning. Now the car has an enhanced airflow concept which should result in a more stable and functional platform for the car. This will then again prove to be another important factor in better upgrades and improvements to the car. Now, the momentum is on Ferrari's side. With Hamilton joining from 2025 onwards, the team has yet another motivation to push harder in this campaign and try to have as much of a better foundation as possible for the upcoming season, with almost no changes coming to the technical rules. From 2022 onwards, the cars that the teams will end the season with will more or less be the starting ones for the upcoming campaign. The fact that Ferrari has halved the gap to Red Bull at the early stages of 2024 gives Vassar a lot of hope that we can see close competition before the massive overhaul in 2026 comes. When talking about this to a greater extent, Vassar went on to say it's never easy to have a clear picture of the race performance because you don't know when the guys are pushing. But if you compare with 1 year ago, plus or minus 0.2, we were 1.1 seconds behind Red Bull and now it's 4, 5 or 6 tenths. So we've halved the gap. The performance is coming from everywhere and it's never that you have one bullet that can bring 5 tenths to the car and we must improve on every single area. It was the approach last year and at the end it did well as we made a decent step, but in every single area we have to continue to push. And for sure the airflow of the car is always the key to its performance. We have upgrades in the pipeline, but I am sure that so does everybody else. And the most important thing is not to bring upgrades, but to bring upgrades that you can operate on the car. It's where last year we did a good job. With this in mind, and with the competitiveness that both Leclerc and Sainz have between each other and the Maranello team, do you think that Ferrari has what it takes to take the battle to Red Bull? Consider the fact that the team did not report on any basic issues that need to be fixed, unlike their rivals. And more importantly, which driver do you think will be able to get the best out of the SF-24? Let us know in the comments below.